Novo Nordisk just lost the top spot in the GLP-1 market, and they're fighting back with a new Wegovy pill and a $4.99 cash pay option in the UK. Novo Nordisk just lost the top spot in the GLP-1 market, and they're fighting back with a new Wegovy pill and a $4.99 cash pay option. In the UK, patients may soon get these same medications for just $12.40 through local pharmacies. And in the US, the pressure is building in Washington to finally bring prices down.
Welcome to the Downsized News. It's Monday, May 12th, 2025, and we've got your latest scoop on GLP-1 medications. I'm Laraine Durham, and I've lost 54 pounds using tirzepatide.
And I'm Christopher Durham, and I've lost 104 pounds thanks to GLP-1s. Today we're bringing you the top news about GLP-1s, everything from Mounjaro and Zepbound to Wegovy, Ozempic, semaglutide, and tirzepatide, plus all the new innovation and research and development from treatments to new drugs on the horizon.
Before we get into it, just a reminder, we're not doctors. We're just sharing what's helped us and what's happening out there. Always check with your doctor or healthcare provider before starting any treatment. And hey, if you find this helpful, hit like, subscribe, and tap that notification bell so you never miss an update.
We've got a lot to cover, so let's get into what's new and what it means for those of us using GLP-1s to treat the disease of obesity.
In story number 1, last week we reported that Weight Watchers was likely heading for bankruptcy. This week, it became official. WW International, the parent company of Weight Watchers, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection with plans to eliminate more than $1.1 billion in debt. The company says it has support from nearly 3/4 of its lenders and expects to emerge from bankruptcy within 45 days. The move marks a major turning point for a company that was once the most recognized name in weight loss. But the rise of GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, and Zepbound have reshaped the landscape. Weight Watchers has struggled to keep up. In 2023, WW tried to pivot by buying the telehealth startup company Sequence for $106 million. That service, now called Weight Watchers Clinic, helps users get prescriptions for GLP-1 medications. The company has since issued 1.5 million prescriptions and still has 3.4 million subscribers. But financial troubles kept piling up. Revenue fell 10% in the most recent quarter, and adjusted losses hit 47 cents per share. Shares of WW have traded under $1 since February and dropped even further after the bankruptcy announcement, closing at just 39 cents. The company says current members won't see disruptions and that the bankruptcy is part of a broader transformation. Weight Watchers hopes to evolve from a diet program into a telehealth platform that supports people using weight loss medications. Still, experts say the brand has been struggling for years. The pandemic hurt its in-person meeting model. A failed kids app drew criticism. And GLP-1s have simply been more effective for many people. Traditional diet programs often result in 5% to 10% weight loss. GLP-1s can lead to double that. Even former spokesperson Oprah Winfrey stepped away from the board after publicly revealing she was using a weight loss drug in 2023. Weight Watchers isn't alone. Jenny Craig filed for bankruptcy last year. The old diet industry is under serious pressure. GLP-1 medications have changed the conversation from personal willpower to medical treatment. For those who can afford them, these drugs are now the most powerful tool in obesity care. Weight Watchers hopes its new direction will give it a second chance. But the world of weight loss has changed, and this bankruptcy shows just how big that change really is.
So, would you bet on them?
No, absolutely not. They're done. They're so done. I guess it goes bankruptcy. First you do Chapter 11, it's reorganization, and then Chapter 7 is out of business, right? So it almost sounds to me like they filed Chapter 11 just to say, okay, well, now we don't have to pay this debt back.
That is what Chapter 11 is used for.
And the banks are saying, okay, Weight Watchers.
I think they're building plans, and there's things going on there. I mean, as someone who's been in the branding business for 20 years now, longer than that, really, the Weight Watchers name, and they tried valiantly to flip it to WW so it didn't have Weight Watchers anymore. I just think the brand is fatally damaged at this point, and Honestly, the culture, the science, the medicine is passing by.
Well, it sounds like they don't even want to do in-person meetings anymore if they want to transition to an online telehealth platform. You've got thousands of people, like I used to be, who religiously went to those meetings every week.
You could still include an in-person meeting. There's nothing wrong with that. Certainly people still want support, but...
Yeah, they've just eliminated their storefronts. I know my meeting place now moved to a church. It used to have a dedicated store in a shopping center, and that closed. They used to have products, Weight Watchers products, snacks, and different baking mixes and things. Those have been completely eliminated now. So I think, the diehard Weight Watchers people that are maybe my age and older will continue, but I can't see a 20-something person going and sitting around with a bunch of old people in Weight Watchers.
It feels like you're pushing a rock uphill with that brand name. It'd almost be easier to start a new thing than to fix Weight Watchers.
Well, Weight Watchers, just the name, brings up so many connotations, right? Because I've lived with that name my whole life, and like a lot of other people have.
Yeah. Story number 2, on Wednesday, May 7th, Novo Nordisk reported its financial results for the first quarter of 2025. And if you're using GLP-1s like Wegovy or Ozempic, there's a lot packed into this update. So let's start with the numbers. Novo brought in 78.1 billion Danish kroner in sales. That's about $11.9 billion US, and beat earnings expectations. But the real story is what happened with their GLP-1 drugs. Wegovy, Novo's obesity treatment, brought in 17.36 billion kroners. That's about 2.64 billion. That's up 83% compared to the same time last year, but down 13% from last quarter, and short of what analysts had expected. Ozempic, the company's type 2 diabetes drug that's also widely used for weight loss, brought in 32.7 billion kroner, almost $5 billion US, which was stronger than expected. But here's where things get complicated. Just a few days earlier, Eli Lilly released their quarterly earnings, and it was a shot across the bow for Novo. For the first time ever, Lilly now holds a 53% market share of the global GLP-1 market, overtaking Novo Nordisk. That's a big shift. Lilly pulled in nearly $13 billion in revenue last quarter, up 45% year over year. Their obesity drug, Zepbound, brought in $2.3 billion, and Mounjaro, the version for type 2 diabetes, added another $3.8 billion. That's $6.1 billion in tirzepatide sales alone. So while Novo is growing, they're now officially playing catch-up in the race they once dominated. One big reason: compounded semaglutide is still flooding the U.S. market. Novo's CEO Lars Jorgensen told Yahoo Finance that compounders now account for as much market share as Wegovy itself in the U.S.
Wow.
That's a massive disruption, but that could be about to change. Now that semaglutide is officially off the FDA's drug shortage list, compounding for bulk sale is supposed to stop. The FDA's enforcement grace period ends later this month, and Novo says they're actively working to shut it down, so expect some court cases there. That could mean some lower-cost compounded versions disappear if Novo has its way. For patients, this is the moment to start planning ahead, especially if you're relying on compounded meds for affordability or access. Novo is also trying to improve access to branded Wegovy. They've rolled out a $499 a month cash pay program through CVS, as well as their Novo Care option, and they've partnered with multiple telehealth companies to help people get prescriptions more easily. We reported on that last week. Plus, CVS now has made Wegovy the only GLP-1 obesity medication on its national formulary. Novo says they didn't request that exclusivity, but they're clearly happy about it, and says it's a sign of confidence in Wegovy's safety and long-term value. Now, here's where things get exciting. Novo has submitted an oral version of Wegovy to the FDA. This once-daily pill showed 16.6% weight loss in clinical trials, similar to the injectable. It could launch by early 2026 if approved. They're also developing CagriSema, a combination of semaglutide and cagrilinotide, which showed 15.7% weight loss in people with obesity and type 2 diabetes. That drug may be filed for approval next year. So what does all this mean for you? Well, if you're using a GLP-1 to treat the disease of obesity, here's the bottom line. Access is changing. Some compounded drugs may be going away. Insurance is reshuffling its preferred drugs. And a Wegovy pill might be coming soon. Novo is clearly fighting to hold their ground, but Lilly is not slowing down. For patients, that competition might mean more innovation, better options ahead, and maybe, just maybe, a price war. We'll keep following the story.
So Novo, which makes Wegovy, says compounding is like even with Wegovy
Yeah, that's a
sales?
huge number. Yeah.
I mean, it seems to me that if Novo Nordisk wanted to crush the compounding market, they could just drop the price and crush it.
Yeah, that's exactly what they could do.
You
And
know,
that's exactly what they should do, honestly.
And how much did they make? How many billions? It was like $8 billion last
like that,
quarter
yeah.
in Wegovy.
Yeah.
And if you think there's $8 billion per quarter being made in compounding semaglutide, and more options are definitely coming.
Yeah.
So the semaglutide pill and the higher dose, CagriSema is very exciting. Retatrutide from Eli Lilly is very exciting. So, you know, as people lose access to maybe Zepbound, as their PBM shifts them to Wegovy, or as compounded semaglutide and compounded tirzepatide gets harder and harder to find and harder to access, other drugs are ready to enter the market. And hopefully in 2026, we'll have some more options.
It clearly looks like they're going to have to battle hard. I mean, I think they're going to have to bring prices down. They've got to keep the numbers up. They've got to keep the stock analyst happy. The other nugget in there was them saying that they did not ask CVS Caremark for exclusivity.
Yeah, why would they even say that? Like, how do you get together with CVS Caremark just says, oh, we're just going to go with Wegovy and we're taking Zepbound off? Why would they just randomly do that on their own if they hadn't entered into a deal with Novo Nordisk?
I mean, there must have been a negotiation there. I don't know. It's a strange statement to make.
It's a strange statement to make, and one that really makes you question why they even said that, why they even brought it up.
Hard to say.
Hard to say. Maybe they think they don't want people to think they're colluding, but I mean, clearly they got together. I don't know. And story number 3, if you've ever struggled with nausea from a GLP-1 medication like Wegovy or Zepbound, you're not alone. It's the number one reason people stop taking these medications, even when they're helping with weight loss. But now, a team at Mayo Clinic says they may have a way to predict who's most likely to get sick before treatment even begins. In a new study presented this week at Digestive Disease Week, researchers used genetic data to build a risk score. And it worked. People with certain genes were more than twice as likely to get nausea from GLP-1s than those without them, 68% compared to 30%. This is a big deal because up to 70% of GLP-1 users experience some form of GI side effects. Nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, it's all way too common. The tool they used is called the MyPhenome test. It's a simple saliva swab that looks at your unique biology. The idea is to help your doctor figure out what kind of hunger drives your obesity, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, and choose the treatment most likely to work for you. In this case, it helped identify who's most likely to feel sick from medications like liraglutide and semaglutide. That means more patients could stay on their medication longer and have a better chance at long-term weight loss. Dr. Andres Acosta, the lead researcher and a well-known obesity expert at Mayo Clinic, said the best responders to GLP-1s are those with what he calls a hungry gut. That's when your body drives hunger from the stomach, not just the brain or emotions. And if your genes say GLP-1 nausea is coming, your doctor might start you slower, offer more support, or even recommend a different option from the start. This could also help drug companies choose better candidates for clinical trials, which means fewer dropouts and faster results. That matters for people waiting for the next generation of GLP-1 drugs. For patients using GLP-1s to treat obesity, it's one more step towards personalized care, one that doesn't just focus on weight loss, but on feeling good while you're getting there. Would you take a test like this before starting a GLP-1?
Sure. In story number 4, a small company called ZyVersa says it's working on something big, a new type of drug that could make GLP-1 medications work better and help with some of the issues they don't fully fix. ZyVersa is developing a medication called IC100. It's not a weight loss drug on its own, but it targets inflammation in the body, especially the kind that makes obesity harder to treat. Here's why that matters. Even though drugs like Wegovy, Zepbound, and Mounjaro are helping millions lose weight, they're not perfect. Many of us struggle with side effects. A lot of people stop taking them altogether, and they don't always fix what's happening deep inside the body, like inflammation in the brain and fat tissue that keeps metabolism out of whack. According to ZyVersa, their drug IC100 targets something called the inflammasome, a key player in chronic inflammation in preclinical studies with animals. The drug showed some pretty exciting results when used with GLP-1s. The combo helped animals lose more fat while keeping more muscle, lowered inflammation and heart risk markers, continued to support weight loss even after stopping GLP-1s. There's also hope that this kind of add-on treatment could let patients use lower doses of GLP-1s, possibly cutting side effects like nausea and making it easier to stick with treatment. The company plans to start clinical trials in early 2026, but they're kicking off another animal study right now using semaglutide, the active ingredient in Wegovy and Ozempic, to test how well it works alongside IC100. If the human trials go well, this could be a big step towards helping people stay on GLP-1s longer, protect their muscle, and fight off the inflammation that's tied to so many of the complications of obesity.
In story number 5, here's a headline that caught our attention and probably yours too. According to a new report in the Daily Mail, the National Health Service, or NHS, may soon offer GLP-1 medications at local pharmacies across the UK for just $9.90. That's the standard prescription fee in England and about $12.40 in US dollars. The NHS is the publicly funded healthcare system in the United Kingdom. It provides doctor visits, hospital care, and most prescriptions free or at very low cost to UK residents. Right now, there's a 2-year waiting list to get Wegovy through the NHS. That's a long time to wait, especially when 1 in 3 adults in England is living with obesity. To help fix that, the UK government is reportedly close to signing a deal with a major pharmaceutical company to launch a pilot program. If approved, people could access GLP-1 medications at community pharmacies for about $12.40 US dollars. These medications, like Wegovy and Mounjaro, mimic a natural hormone that helps regulate appetite and digestion. Many people lose up to 15% of their body weight. According to the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, 3.4 million people in the UK could benefit. Now, here's something important. UK residents can already get these medications from private doctors and telehealth clinics outside of the NHS. The cash price typically runs £100 to £150 a month. That's roughly $125 to $190 US dollars per month, and it's completely out of pocket. That's why expanding access through the NHS, especially through local pharmacies, could be a game changer for people in the UK. Health experts say pharmacists are trained and equipped to help patients safely use these medications. Pharmacist Torin Govind told The Independent that while GLP-1s aren't right for everyone, pharmacists are in a great position to support patients and make sure they're getting the care they need. Dr. Layla Hanbeck, head of the Independent Pharmacies Association, agrees. She called the proposal a step in the right direction and said it could keep patients away from risky online sources while helping them build healthier habits. We agree. Making GLP-1 medications safer, more affordable, and easier to access is a step forward for millions of people living with obesity.
And we'd kill for their prices. $150 bucks.
$199? That's not a high price. We could fly to England and buy the medicine and fly back for 1 dose of what it costs here.
That's right. And maybe we will. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe we will.
In our final 2 stories, drug pricing and specifically GLP-1 pricing takes center stage in Washington. As a reminder, the Downsized is not a political channel, but we do cover politics, where they directly affect the cost, access, and future of GLP-1 medications. We support any policy, no matter where it comes from, that increases affordability and accessibility for those of us treating this disease.
JoJo has joined the chat.
We have no desire to debate politics or see the comments turn into political arguments. Please be polite, stay focused on GLP-1s and treating your disease, and remember why we're here, to support each other on this adventure. In this story, a familiar drug pricing idea is back on the table, and for people using GLP-1s to treat obesity, it could be a big deal. Early this week, the Trump administration teased what it called an earth-shattering and positive announcement. Sources now say that announcement is expected to be a revived most favored nation policy that would cap what Medicare pays for certain drugs. Here's how it would work. Medicare would only pay the lowest price that drug makers charge in other wealthy countries like Canada or the UK. That could lead to significantly lower prices for drugs like Ozempic, Wegovy, Zepbound, and Mounjaro. This isn't a brand new idea. The administration tried to implement the same policy back in 2020, targeting high-cost Medicare Part B drugs, the kind administered in a clinic such as chemotherapy infusions, but it was blocked by a federal judge who said the government skipped key steps in the rulemaking process. Now the Trump administration is bringing it back. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. hinted at the plan's return in a Newsmax interview earlier this week. He pointed to the high cost of GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic in the U.S. and said the government is trying to negotiate lower prices and possibly pilot programs to make the drugs more widely available. But Kennedy also said covering GLP-1s like Ozempic and Wegovy under Medicare and Medicaid could be financially devastating. According to him, it could double health insurance costs for employers and drive up government spending. The administration is still negotiating lower prices for Ozempic, but only for its diabetes-related use, not obesity treatment. More than 3 out of 4 Americans say drug prices are unaffordable, and with GLP-1 medications costing hundreds of dollars a month, the idea of tying prices to what other countries pay has strong public support. Whether this policy can withstand another legal challenge remains to be seen, but for patients using GLP-1s to manage obesity, any step towards lower prices is worth watching. And we've reported extensively, the price of these medications in other countries, and it's obviously a very complex conversation. But yeah, if they can figure out some way to get them down, I'm all for it.
We just want lower drug prices.
We want fair drug prices.
We want fair drug prices. The list price for cash payment for Wegovy and Zepbound are over $1,000. Now they do have some cash pay options at $4.99 for vial options. In the UK, $199 or maybe $13, the equivalent of
That's
$13
not approved
US
yet,
dollars. Come on. We just want our medications at a price we can afford safely and effectively.
Absolutely.
In story number 7, 2 senators, 1 Republican and 1 Democrat, just announced a new plan to bring down the price of prescription drugs in the U.S. The bill comes from Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri and Senator Peter Welch of Vermont. They say Americans are paying way too much for the medications they need, often 4 or 5 times more than what people in other countries pay for the exact same drug. Their plan is simple. Drug companies would no longer be allowed to charge Americans more than they charge people in other wealthy countries. And if the companies break that rule, they'd face penalties. Yes, we like it. For those of us paying out of pocket for GLP-1s like Zepbound, Mounjaro, Wegovy, and Ozempic, this matters a lot. Some people in the UK can get these medications for $150 a month. In the US, it's often $1,000 or more unless you have great insurance, and most people fighting the disease of obesity don't. Senator Hawley says this new plan builds on efforts to take on Big Pharma and make prescriptions affordable again. Senator Welch called the current pricing system unacceptable. We agree. Right now, this new bipartisan bill is separate from the drug pricing plan that the Trump administration is pushing as part of a big package on taxes and border security. Not everyone in Congress agrees yet. House Speaker Mike Johnson recently said he wasn't a fan of the international pricing idea, but Hawley made it clear if Republicans want to cut healthcare costs, this would be a smart place to start. Some people argue that most Americans don't actually pay the list price because insurance and pharmacy benefit managers negotiate lower rates. But that ignores the millions of people without good insurance or those who are paying out of pocket every month for GLP-1s. The drug industry is expected to fight back hard. They've said before that price controls could limit access and delay treatments. But government experts at the Congressional Budget Office say that a policy like this could lower average drug prices in the U.S. by more than 5% by the end of the decade. The details of this bill matter, but the direction matters more. Lawmakers in both parties are finally saying out loud what we've all felt. The current system is broken, and it's time for change. Would you support a rule that says Americans shouldn't have to pay more than other countries for the same drug? I think 100% all Americans would say yes to that.
Yeah. Well, and
No matter what your political party affiliation.
it would be,
Law.
and the difference between law and executive order is law is written in the books and it stays until they pass another law that changes it, and that's much harder to change.
I like
Executive
laws.
orders can change with every president.
Right.
That's just,
We want a law. It would be great.
that's our final story for today, and that's the latest from the Downsized News. We hope you found today's insights helpful as you navigate your GLP-1 adventure.
And while you're here, don't forget to check out our Downsized store at thedownsized.org, where you'll find GLP-1 companion products and more to support your adventure. We are Amazon affiliates, so we make a small commission on each purchase.
Before we wrap up, if you've been following the adventure Laraine and I are on and want more real stories, honest insights, GLP-1 news, and useful tips about these medications, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to tap the notification bell so you never miss an update or a live stream.
Will do.
That's it for us this week.
I'm Laraine Durham.
And I'm Christopher Durham, and we are the Downsized.